I find an awful lot that players are never actually taught to throw properly, and I use the following technique to teach throwing to anyone from ages 4 and 5 in their first years of primary school all the way up to senior players who need a refresher of the basics. It's built up in 3 different stages, and then I'll add a couple of more expert tips on the end. So, stage number 1, standing fairly close to your partner. What you're going to do is you're going to form your grip first. So we go with our 2 fingers up, 2 fingers down, same as your basic starting bowling grip. Ball goes cross seam into that grip so that you've got the fingers up the back of the ball, tips of the fingers onto the seam of the grip and the thumb underneath. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my other hand to hold my wrist, and then just with a flick of the wrist, I should be able to get the ball to travel maybe around a metre straight into my opponent's hands or into my partner's hands. You're always going to be focusing, especially when working with young players, and reminding them that they always need to deliver the ball into their partner's hands. That is important to build from an accurate standpoint. So we've got our grip, we're cross seam, wrist holds onto the other wrist. The only thing you'll see that moves is my hand, and it should go straight into Sam's hands. Okay, so then I'd get my partner to show me theirs. Again, just form the grip, take the time, and with just a wrist flick, we'll get the ball straight across from there. Okay, stage number 2 then is to build in more arm release. So how I would describe this is that we take our non-bowling arm and we form a shelf. So the forearm comes across the belly to form a shelf. From that position, I'm then going to drop the elbow onto the shelf, and then the whole arm now releases out towards the target, so that again we're looking to target towards our partner's hands. So form a shelf, elbow on the shelf, and then arm releases out to target. So what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to make sure that the full arm extends and that hand ends up pointing out towards where that target is. Okay, so the final stage of it is that we need to establish our side-on position. So when I talk about throwing at primary school level, I tend to talk about a T-shape, so that it just ensures that the arms are coming out level with the shoulders. What you actually need to do is you need that wider base as well to create power from the ground up. So although we say T-shape with the arms, we're still looking to get a wider base again to use that lower body power. From that position, the elbow bends so that we stack everything on top. So the ball comes on top of the wrist comes on top of the elbow, and the elbow tries to remain level with the shoulder. Now for young players, they're going to try and throw a lot with the elbow lower than the shoulder. We know, particularly from baseball throwing techniques, that is when you get into trouble in terms of causing injuries in the arm. So always encourage your young players to keep their elbows up. If you're working with more senior players, the key point that you can remind to them or focus in with them is that the forearm should remain in the same angle as the spine. So as the spine tilts, the forearm can also keep matching that angle. So you see the likes of Ben Stokes particularly, that throws with a lower throwing arm. You'll also find that his spine angle is on that lower angle, and that's how they're able to generate that whip and that arm speed through. But that's for your more advanced adult players. So for our younger players, we're going to be in our sideways on position. We're into our T-shape, we've got our arms out nice and straight. We bend at the elbow to stack everything on top, and then we release the whole arm through out towards the target. Now what I'll also tell young players to do particularly is to keep that non-throwing arm pointing towards the target for as long as possible. That encourages them, without telling them directly, to keep the lower body engaged, keep the non-throwing side of the body engaged, so that they're releasing the power at the right time. If you allow them or encourage them to move that arm early, then the hips spin out, the lower body spins out, the arm falls into that lower slot, and they're losing the power from the body at the wrong time within the throwing technique. So encourage your young players to keep both arms pointing at the target as they start to practice this throwing. Okay, the last bit that I'd speak about in terms with your expert players, with your senior adult players, is about the rotation in the arm. Now, you might not be familiar with the terms of pronate and supinate, which is in terms of how your arm rotates, but you're looking to pronate the arm as you release the ball. What that means in a real term is that from that front on position, as the arm comes through, you want the back of the hand to rotate inwards so that the palm faces outwards. It works for left arm and right arm, but the back of the hand rotates inwards, pronating, so rotating in that direction. That is going to make the most use of the muscles in the shoulders and the back, and it's going to protect those areas from injury if you're doing lots of repeated throwing, which we do in cricket. Think about getting the thumb turning in towards the body after release.